my sister sent me a document titled My Engagement Budget. I paid $10,000 but couldn't find my name on the guest list. I said, since I'm not invited, I'm not paying. So I canceled everything I had paid for. The next morning, my name is Kelly, and I'm 30 years old now. Looking back at my life, I can see how everything started going wrong when I was just a kid. My parents always told me that taking care of my little sister Madeline was my job. She's 6 years younger than me, so when I was in elementary school, she was just a baby. But even back then, I noticed something wasn't right. Madeline got pocket money every week for candy and toys. When I asked Mom why, she just shrugged and said, "You don't need it. Your sister does." Watched other kids buy snacks after school while I had empty pockets. It hurt, but I learned not to complain. Complaining only made things worse at home. When I turned 15, I couldn't take it anymore. I got a part-time job at a local grocery store, stocking shelves after school and on weekends. The pay wasn't much, but it was mine. Funny thing is, even with my own money, I still bought things for Madeline. She'd see me with cash and give me those big puppy dog eyes. "Kelly, can you buy me that new Barbie doll, please?" Like an idiot, I'd say yes. I bought her toys, candy, clothes, whatever she wanted. Meanwhile, I wore the same 3 outfits to school and ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day. My parents never noticed how hard I was working or how little I kept for myself. They were too busy fussing over Madeline. Every family dinner was about her grades, her friends, her activities. I could have disappeared, and they probably wouldn't have noticed until Madeline needed something. High school was more of the same. I worked 20 hours a week and gave most of my money to my sister. My parents acted like this was completely normal. "Kelly, such a good sister." Mom would tell her friends, "She takes such good care of Madeline," but they never asked how I felt about it. Or if I needed anything, I was just expected to provide and stay quiet. I was lucky enough to get a full scholarship to college. My grades were good because I studied hard, mostly to escape the house and all the responsibilities there. I chose computer science because I knew it would lead to a decent job. I needed financial security after years of scraping by. College was the first time I felt free. I lived in the dorms, ate in the cafeteria, and didn't have to worry about anyone but myself. I made friends who didn't know about my family situation for 4 years. I almost forgot what it was like to be constantly needed for money, but that freedom ended the day I graduated. Madeline was starting college too, and my parents made it clear what they expected. "Kelly, you have a good job now," Dad said during my graduation dinner. "Madeline is going to need help with expenses we can't afford to pay for." Everything Mom added how expensive college is, I wanted to remind them that they never paid a dime for my education, but I kept my mouth shut. I've learned long ago that fighting with them was pointless. At 24, I got my first real job as an IT specialist at a major bank. The salary was good, better than anything I'd ever imagined. But instead of enjoying it, I immediately started sending money to Madeline. First, it was just help with rent, then groceries, then textbooks, then clothes, then entertainment, money. Before knew it, I was paying for her entire lifestyle while I lived in a cheap studio apartment and ate ramen noodles most nights. The worst part was family gatherings. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, every birthday party was all about Madeline, her classes, her sorority, her boyfriends, her plans. I'd sit there like furniture or only getting attention when someone needed to discuss how much money my sister required. Years passed like this. I moved to a slightly better apartment but still lived modestly because so much of my income went to my sister. She graduated college and got a job, but somehow she still needed my help constantly. Car repairs, security, deposits, vacation, money, designer, clothes for work. There was always something. Then came that Sunday dinner that changed everything. I walked into my parents' house like I had hundreds of times before. Madeline was there with her boyfriend, Jake. Some guy she'd been dating for about 2 years. He seemed nice enough, though. I barely knew him since our conversations never lasted more than 5 minutes. We all sat down at the dinner table, and Dad cleared his throat like he was about to make some big announcement. "Madeline and Jake are getting engaged," he said with a huge smile. I looked at my sister, who was practically glowing. Jake looked nervous but happy. I should have been excited for them, but all I could think was how much this was probably going to cost me. "That's wonderful," I said, trying to sound genuine. "Congratulations." "Thanks," Madeline beamed. "We're so excited. We want to have an engagement party next month." Mom nodded enthusiastically. "It's going to be beautiful. We've already started looking at venues." Then came the part One was dreading, "We'll need help with the money for the event." Madeline said casually, like she was talking about the weather, "We'll need to pay for the venue rental, catering, and a Gigi will help us out, like always, right?" Kelly all eyes turned to me. This was my cue to smile and say yes, like I always. Did something made me hesitate? "Sure," I said slowly. "I can help if it's not too." Expansive Madeline face lit up like Christmas morning. "Kelly, you're the best. I'll send you an estimate really soon so you can see exactly what we need the next day at work." I got an email from Madeline with the subject line, "My engagement budget?" So excited. I opened it during my lunch break, expecting to see something reasonable. The document was attached as a PDF when I opened it. My jaw dropped. The bottom in bold letters was the total $10,000. I scrolled through the itemized list, unable to believe what I was reading. Venue rental was $4,000 alone. Then there was a florist for $1,500, professional catering for $2,500, a DJ for $800, dollar champagne towers for $600, ice sculptures for $500, and actual fireworks for $700. My hands were shaking when I picked up my phone to call Madeline. She answered on the second ring, sounding cheerful as always. "Madeline, what the hell is this?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. $10,000? Are you serious? Come on. It's not that much, she said, dismissively. Kept everything really reasonable. Could have spent way more. I rubbed my forehead, feeling a headache coming on. "Madeline," I said, "I'd help if it was inexpensive." "This is not inexpensive, but you promised to help me." She'll wind. "You always help me, and it's my engagement, Kelly. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You could get money from Mom and Dad, or Jake could contribute. He's going to be your husband." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then Madeline's voice got cold. "Mom and Dad already gave us what they could, and Jake's saving for the wedding. I can't ask him for more money right now." "Then maybe you need to cut your budget," I said firmly. "I want to help you celebrate, but I can give you $3,000 maximum." "That's it. $3,000, she shrieked. "That won't even cover the venue." "Kelly, I already told everyone that you were paying for my whole party. I can't change everything now." My blood pressure was shooting through the roof. "Madeline, you can't just assume I'll pay for everything without asking me first. But you always do. You've never said no before." "I'm saying no. Now, $3,000. Take it or leave it." "This isn't funny, Kelly. I need this money. I need to pay my own bills. Find another way or scale back your plans." She hung up on me. Actually hung up. I sat there holding my phone, shocked that she'd had the nerve to end the call like a spoiled teenager. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Mom Kelly. "What did you do to your sister?" She's crying her eyes out. I told her I couldn't pay $10,000 for her engagement party. $10,000. That does seem like a lot. For a second, I thought Mom was going to be reasonable. Then she continued, "But Madeline is younger than you. She needs your help. You make good money now. Mom, if she doesn't have enough money for such an expensive party, she should cut the budget. Why can't Jake pay for his own engagement party? They both have jobs. Jake is saving for their future together. This is important to Madeline. What about what's important to me? I've been supporting her for years. I paid for her college expenses, her car, her apartment deposits. When does it end?" Mom got quiet for a moment. "We're not talking about the wedding yet." Something in her voice made my stomach drop. "Yet? What do you mean yet?" We haven't discussed wedding expenses. That's a conversation for later. You've already talked about the wedding. Haven't? You're planning to make me pay for that too? Kelly, don't be dramatic. We're just focused on the engagement party right now. No way. Absolutely not. Pay for this engagement party next. You'll expect me to pay for her entire wedding. Where does it stop? Mom, let's just take things one step at a time. Your sister really needs your help right now. I was so angry. I could barely speak. Fine. $3,000 for the engagement party. That's my final offer. If that's not enough, she needs to figure out another plan. I hung up before Mom could argue with me anymore. My heart was pounding and I felt sick to my stomach. I'd never stood up to my family like that before, and it felt terrible and liberating at the same time. But I should have known they weren't going to give up that easily. Over the next few days, Madeline started posting on Instagram and Facebook. Every single day, there was a new post about how her own sister had refused to help her with her engagement party, how she never expected such betrayal from the person closest to her. She posted old photos of us as kids with captions like, "I thought my big sister would always be there for me, and guess money is more important than family to some people." But the worst were the videos of her crying, talking about how heartbroken she was that I had abandoned her in her time of need. My phone started ringing constantly. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family, friends, everyone had something to say about how selfish I was being. "Kelly, it's just money." My Aunt Linda said during one particularly painful call, "Family is more important." She's your little sister. My cousin, Mike added when he called. "You're supposed to take care of her." Even my grandmother got involved, calling to tell me how disappointed she was in my behavior. Guilt was overwhelming. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should just pay for the stupid party and be done with it. Then Madeline started sending photos to our family group chat, old pictures of me holding her when she was a baby, feeding her bottles, pushing her on swings. Each photo came with a message about how I used to love her and take care of her and how everything had changed now that money was involved. I couldn't take it anymore. Constant calls, the social media posts, the guilt, trips. I felt like I was drowning in shame and pressure from every direction. Finally, I cracked, called Madeline back. "Fine," I said before she could even say hello. "I'll pay for your engagement party, but this is my wedding gift to you. Don't expect anything else when you actually get married." "Kelly!" she squealed with delight. "I knew you'd come through. I knew you could never really abandon me. Just send me the vendor contacts. I'll handle the payments myself. You're the best sister in the world. I love you so much." As I hung up, I felt empty inside. I'd caved to the pressure, just like I always did. But at least this time, I'd set a boundary about the wedding that had to count for something, right? Within an hour of my phone call with Madeline, she had sent me a detailed email with all the vendor contacts, wedding planners, caterers, florists, DJ services. She'd already done all the legwork, probably assuming I'd cave eventually. I spent the rest of that week making phone calls and sending deposits. The venue wanted half up front, which was $2,000 right there. Caterer needed $1,500 as a deposit. The florist wanted $800. By the time I finished making all the advance payments, I'd already spent $6,000. And the party was still 3 weeks away. The following Sunday, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Like always, Madeline was there when I arrived, sitting at the kitchen table with Mom, surrounded by what looked like wedding magazines and vendor brochures. "Kelly," Mom called out when I walked in, perfect timing. "Come look at these beautiful flowers." I sat down reluctantly. The table was covered with photos of elaborate floral arrangements that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Aren't these gorgeous?" Madeline gushed, pointing to a massive centerpiece covered in white roses and baby's breath. "I think these would be perfect for the engagement party." "Thought we already picked the flowers," I said, confused. "We did. These are for the actual wedding. I'm just getting ideas together." My stomach tightened. "Madeline, I told you the engagement party was my wedding gift." "I'm not paying for your wedding too." She waved her hand dismissively. I know. "I'm just looking, doesn't hurt to dream, right?" Mom and Madeline spent the entire dinner talking about engagement party details, the guest list, the decorations, the timeline for the evening. I mostly stayed quiet, picking up my food and trying not to think about how much money I'd already spent after dinner. I was getting ready to leave when I noticed the paper on the side table. It looked like a guest list, so I picked it up out of curiosity. I wanted to see how many people would be at this 10,000 party I was funding. The list was long, maybe 60 or 70 names. I recognized some family members and a few of Madeline's friends I'd met before. There were a lot of names I didn't know at all. Jake's family, his coworkers, people from Madeline's job. I scanned through the entire list twice, looking for my own name. It had to be there somewhere. I was paying for the whole damn party, but my name wasn't on the list. "Madeline," I called out, still holding the paper. "Why is it my name on this guest list?" She looked up from the magazines with a guilty expression. Mom suddenly got very busy clearing dishes that Madeline said, not meeting my eyes. "Mom and I were talking about it, and we thought you might not really fit in with this crowd. People we're inviting are more open and fun. You're always too serious at parties, Kelly. You never like big crowds anyway." I stared at her in disbelief. "I'm paying $10,000 for your engagement party, and you're not even inviting me." Mom finally spoke up. "We just thought you'd be more comfortable at home. We made sure you wouldn't feel uncomfortable." "You're both crazy," I said, my voice shaking with anger. I'm paying for your entire party, and do you think I don't belong there? You're being dramatic, Madeline said, rolling her eyes. That was it. I was done. Fine, I said, grabbing my purse. Since I'm not invited, I'm not paying. Kelly! Wait, Mom started, but I was already walking toward the door. I walked out and slammed the door behind me harder than I'd ever slammed a door in my life. I could hear them yelling inside the house, but I didn't care. I drove home and immediately turned off the sound on my phone. I needed silence to process what had just happened. But when I got home and looked at my phone, I already had 12 missed calls and 8 text messages. The worst message was from Madeline. I always knew you were greedy and selfish. You're just jealous because I have a fiancé, and you can't even get a date. No wonder you're still single at 30. You're ugly, inside and out. That message pushed me over the edge. I'd supported her for years, paid for everything she wanted, and this was how she really felt about me. I grabbed my laptop and started calling every vendor. I'd made deposits with the venue, the caterer, the florist, the DJ, everyone. Hi, this is Kelly Morrison. I need to cancel all the bookings for the Madeline Morrison engagement party on the 28th. Each conversation was the same. They were all very professional about it, apologizing for any inconvenience, and confirming the cancellations. Within 2 hours, I'd canceled every single vendor. The worst part was that every single company charged me massive cancellation fees. The venue kept $2,000 out of my deposit. Caterer took $800. The florist kept $400. By the time I finished dealing with all the vendors, I'd lost almost $3,000 in cancellation penalties alone. I only got back about $3,000 of the $6,000 I'd already spent. The fact that I was losing so much money made me even more furious. Around 9 o'clock, my phone rang. It was David, the party coordinator. I just got calls from all our vendors saying everything's been canceled. They're a problem. There's no problem, I said firmly. I'm no longer paying for this event. You'll need to work directly with Madeline from now on. I won't be involved, but we have contracts and deposits already paid, which I've already canceled. Good luck. I hung up before he could say anything else. Let them figure out how to salvage their fancy party without my money. I turned my phone off completely after the call with the party coordinator. Couldn't deal with any more drama that night. But when I woke up the next morning and turned it back on, I had 53 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most of them were from my family, but some were from relatives I hadn't heard from in months. Word had obviously gotten out about what happened. I scrolled through some of the messages while drinking my coffee. Aunt Linda had texted 3 times asking me to call her immediately. My cousin Mike sent a long message about family loyalty. Even my grandmother had somehow figured out how to send a text, calling me selfish and ungrateful. But the worst messages were from my immediate family. Mom had sent about 20 texts, starting with, "Please call me," and ending with, "How could you do this to your sister?" Dad had left several voicemails that I couldn't bring myself to listen to. Madeline messages were the most vicious. She called me every name in the book and blamed me for ruining her life. The last message said, "I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything." I was still reading through the chaos when someone started pounding on my front door, heavy, angry, knocking. That went on for several minutes. "Kelly!" I heard Dad's voice through the door. "We know you're in there. Open this door right now." Could hear Mom and Madeline too, all of them shouting at once. They sounded furious, and I was genuinely afraid to open the door. "You ruined everything!" Madeline screamed. "My whole engagement party is canceled because of you." "Kelly, this is ridiculous!" Mom yelled. "You need to fix this immediately." I stayed in my kitchen, waiting for them to give up and leave. They kept banging and shouting for almost 20 minutes. Finally, I'd had enough. I walked to the door but didn't open it. "I'm not opening this door," I called out. "Kelly, stop being childish," Dad demanded. "You have to fix what you did," Madeline shrieked. "You want to know what I realized?" I shouted through the door. "I calculated every dollar I've given you. Over the past 8 years, Madeline over $80,000. And that's just what I could remember." There was silence on the other side of the door. "I'm done. I will not give you another cent for anything. Not for your engagement party. Not for your wedding. Nothing you adults with jobs. Figure it out yourselves. You promised to help me my whole life." Madeline started crying. "You said you'd never invite me to your wedding after this. I wouldn't come anyway." They shouted and banged on the door for another few minutes, but eventually they gave up and left. I watched through my window as they got in their car, still arguing with each other. The next day, Madeline posted a long rant on social media about how I betrayed her and broken my promise to help her. She made it sound like I'd ruin her engagement and her entire future. All her friends commented with sympathy, talking about what a terrible sister I am, and followed her on all social media platforms. I was done watching her paint herself as the victim while making me the villain. About a month later, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw photos from Madeline's engagement party. They were posted by Sarah, one of her friends who I was still connected with on social media. Clicked through the photos with curiosity. The party had obviously happened, but it looked nothing like the $10,000 event Madeline had planned. The whole thing was held in my parents' backyard. There were maybe 20 people there, all close family and friends. Instead of professional catering, I could see plastic plates and disposable cups. Their food was clearly homemade, probably prepared by Mom. There were no ice sculptures, no champagne towers, no professional flowers, just some basic decorations and a small cake. But what struck me most was Madeline's face. In every single photo she looked miserable. Even in the pictures where she was supposed to be smiling, her expression was forced and unhappy. This was supposed to be her dream engagement party, but she looked like she was attending a funeral. I actually felt a little sorry for her. All that drama, all those nasty messages, all that family conflict, and she'd ended up with exactly the kind of small, simple party I would have gladly helped pay for in the first place. After seeing those photos, I didn't hear from my family for another 3 months. It was the longest I've gone without talking to them since I was a kid, and honestly, it was peaceful. I didn't realize how much stress their constant demands had been causing me until it stopped. I used the money I would have spent on Madeline expenses to start saving for my own apartment. A real apartment in a nice neighborhood, not some cheap studio. For the first time in my adult life, I was putting myself first. Then one day, I got an email from Madeline with the subject line, "Wedding Invitation." I almost deleted it without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The email said, "Kelly, I want you to know that you're still invited to my wedding. I know we've had our differences, but you're still my sister. However, before you can come, you need to apologize to me for what you did and pay $15,000 for the wedding expenses. After you do that, I'll forgive you and we can move past this." I actually laughed out loud when I read it. Even after everything that had happened, she still thought I would pay for her wedding. She still believed she was entitled to my money and that I owed her an apology. I wrote back, "Madeline, you can take my name off your guest list. I won't be attending your wedding, and I don't need your forgiveness. I'll consider making peace with you when you realize how terribly you've treated your own sister and apologize to me. Until then, leave me alone." I hit send and immediately blocked her email address. Now, I don't even think about how her wedding is going. I have my own plans. I'm looking at buying a condo next year, something I never could have afforded when I was funding Madeline Lifestyle. I might even take a vacation to Europe, something I've always wanted to do but never had. The money for... Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever have a relationship with my family again, but then I remember how they treated me, how they saw me as nothing more than a source of money, and I realize I'm better off without them.